Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AF. Our talk. Brian Fisher is my name. Just received a text from a good friend of mine, good friend of this program, and she assured me that the picture I was looking at is actually a fake. It was part of a contest that apparently she hosted on her own blog. So the picture is not accurate, but she does send me a quote from Margaret Sanger's autobiography. I accepted an invitation talk to the women's branch of the Ku Klux Klan at Silver Lake, New Jersey. So she did accept an invitation to speak at a KKK event, and she received, because of her views on eugenics and the inferiority of the black race, she received many invitations to speak at KKK events. Well, let's go back to Trey in Shreveport, Louisiana. Trey, welcome back to Focal Point. And Trey, you're telling me before the break that you are a Democrat, but you are a Christian. You're a Christian first and a Democrat second. I love what you had to say about how we ought to be exercising our faith every second of every day, every minute of every day. And, you know, my view, Trey, is this is exactly what the Constitution protects. It protects our right to do that, to exercise our religion freely, not just an hour a week, but 168 hours a week. We were just starting to talk, Trey, about how your Christian faith, you're a Democrat, you've been a lifelong Democrat, how your Christian faith kind of intersects with the platform and the political views of the Democratic Party. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, like I said, I don't agree all the time with every decision that the party as a majority carries. Just like I listen to radio, I listen to different stations, different type of music, different type of entertainment on the radio.
Now Trey, let me just inject here. Can I ask you can you be specific about some of the positions that the Democratic Party has taken that you reject, that you disagree with?
Well, right now, I totally reject and disagree with the abortion of babies. That's life. Life. God said He knew us before we were in the womb. That was a life then. How can we take what God already knew to be and destroy it? What is it that you're destroying? What is it that you're aborting if you're not taking a life away from something that exists? You claim that you're not killing anything, but you don't have to abort something that's not alive already.
Now, how do you feel about the stance that the Democratic Party has taken on the homosexual agenda? They're supporting, promoting same-sex marriage. They're promoting special rights based on homosexual behavior. How do you, as a Christian first and a Democrat second, how do you feel about that?
As a Christian, it's an abomination because what God say goes, that's it. There's no flexing it, no bending it. God is the same yesterday, today, and He will be the same tomorrow and forevermore. I just don't know how we can, in good conscience, try to bend what God say. I can't imagine my children taking my word and I tell them to do something one way and they go do it the way they want to instead of the way I said do it. I said do 1, 2, and 3 first. I don't want you to do 3, 4, and 1. You're bending it. You're doing what you want to do instead of what God said do. And in 2 Corinthians, in 2 Chronicles, the 7th chapter, God said, if my people who are called by my name should humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways. We have some wicked ways. And then we call ourselves Christians. Then will He hear from heaven, and will He forgive our sins, and will heal the land. And that's the 2 Chronicles. And yes, that's Old Testament, but Jesus said, I didn't come to do away with the law. I can fulfill it.
Yeah. Now,
our duties as Christians are still the same, to support whatever God say. Jesus supported God, and we ought to support God.
Now, let me ask you this, Trey. I hear what you're saying, and I sense the passion and the conviction in your heart when you were talking about the sanctity of life and the sanctity of marriage. It's obvious these are matters of deep conviction for you as they are for me. And so I'm a little bit puzzled. What is it about the Democratic Party? What do they do that you support and that they like that keeps you in the Democratic Party fold?
Well, I'll tell you what, there's a suggestion of trying to help those who seemingly cannot help themselves. And growing up poor, growing up in the hood, so to speak, I know situations that a man with money don't know and could not understand. Not that his heart is incapable of understanding it, but because of his knowledge, his heart hadn't had a chance to even conceive what's going on. I know people who have strived and fought. I work for myself right now. I'm self-employed. And I thank God for every ability that he's given me. I'm not rich, or I'm not poor either, thank God. But there are people who cannot help themselves, or who saw, once you get to a certain point, there is no backing up or no getting out of it. You've gotten into the worst of it. And I know black people and white people the same way, and not just blacks and whites. I get a chance to work with all races. I work with Mexicans and everybody, man. I mean, there's good people among us all, and there's some rotten people among us all. I know
Now,
some
Trey,
rotten,
so
I know some rotten blacks, and I know some rotten whites. I know some rotten Mexicans. You know, I mean, I work with a lot of different people.
yeah.
So we need to acknowledge God first, because who we are does not matter. But we fight to keep ourselves established. You know what? We're just like the Pharisees and Sadducees. That's what we are.
Well, Trey, let me ask you a follow-up question, because what I hear you saying is that you are a Democrat because at least they're trying to help people. They want to help people, so you admire the intention of the party, the desire of the party to help people. You know, I'm looking at the history, for instance, of the war on poverty. A lot of that money has flowed into minority communities. We spent $20 trillion fighting the war on poverty since 1965, trying to use government resources, big government, higher taxes, the involuntary redistribution of wealth to try to alleviate poverty. And we've got as much poverty today as we had when we started. And it would seem to me that just kind of based on common sense and observation, if we've been spending 50 years and we spent $20 trillion fighting poverty, and we've got as much poverty and not, if not more than when we started, that maybe we ought to think about handing some of those responsibilities over to private charities, back to the church and to private charities. What do you think about that?
That may be a good idea, and in some senses that would work. But I think the same thing would happen there that happens through democratic ideas too. We don't speak of it, but I grew up in it, and I've seen the government programs that's supposed to be helping, and I've seen where the money goes. And there's been 60-minute programs and 2020 programs that actually expose these things in the past that I've seen, that people who head these programs up, when 80% of the money is going to the people who run the program and 20% of the money is going to the poverty people, you are not going to see the results that you should see.
Well, see, you know, and see, Trey, I agree with you on that. You know, I've got a story in the stack here about Louisiana. They just had to pass a law last week that you can't use food stamps at tattoo parlors, lingerie shops, and jewelry stores, because up until this law was passed, you could, and they had evidence of people doing that. You can't use them at bail bond companies, cruise ships, psychics, adult entertainment businesses, nightclubs, bars, and any businesses where minors are not allowed. So until they passed this restriction, you could. And people were using their food stamp cards at all these places. You know, and so that's a concern that I've got. I share that similar concern with you, Trey. That seems this is a horribly inefficient use of taxpayer resources when so little of it actually gets into the hands of the people that actually need it. And so it sounds to me like you're kind of making a case maybe for smaller government, less reliance on government services, and more reliance on private charity.
That may be the case. I'm not really that savvy on which area of government is doing the best job, so I don't know where to lay it at. I just know that if we just be more responsible, we would be better stewards.
All right.
Better stewards of what we have.
All right, Trey, listen, I really appreciate your call, and thank you for extending your stay over the break. I appreciate that very, very much. So thank you, Trey. Very good call, Trey. Christian first, a Democrat second. Let's grab one more phone call before the break. Let's go to David, Tyler, Texas. David, welcome. What's on your mind? David, are you with me?
Yeah, thank you for taking my call.
Yeah,
that was
you bet.
A great conversation with Trey. Thank you for taking your time and letting him express his views. And I pray that millions of Treys are listening. The question I would have asked Trey is, would you rather the government give you a check each month or help you get a job? But the reason I called, Brian, is about Michelle Obama. You know, political correctness. I loved it. I love what you read about her speech or what she said. But you know, political correctness would call what she said duplicity. George Orwell would call it doublespeak. Islam would call it taqiyya, and Christianity would call it lying. And I just hope Michelle Obama will keep talking because she's hanging herself. And I hope that the press will print what she says.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay, you bet, David. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I want to grab a couple of sound bites if we can. Let's go to clip 3, Rob, and see if we can squeeze this in before we go to the break. This is Bart Stupak. Now, Bart Stupak was the pro-life guy. He actually lost his seat in 2010 because he was one of the key architects of Obamacare, and he believed the lie from Barack Obama that there wouldn't be any federal dollars going to abortions in Obamacare. Turns out that was another one of President Obama's lies. But here he is with Neil Cavuto on Friday, and Neil Cavuto asks him, look, do you ever regret voting for Obamacare? Let's listen.
Do you ever regret that vote, given all the problems now?
No, I don't regret the vote. I'm proud to vote. I always felt that health care should be a right, not a privilege in this country. One of the reasons why I ran for Congress. I'm glad to have helped accomplish that goal.
Did you know that there would be these problems, or that millions of Americans would have to pay more for their premiums, or for that matter, maybe not have health care altogether?
Well, there are going to be people are going to pay more, sure. I mean, the surtax on the health care bill alone in my congressional district, less than 0.1% has to pay any more. But yet I had 50,000 people in my district who were uninsured at the time who will benefit from this piece of legislation. So when you weigh the equities of it, those of us who can afford to pay a little bit more are going to pay a little bit more for our health insurance. Those who had nothing, who never had much hope or security, now have some underneath the Affordable Care Act.
This is Bart Stupak. A couple of interesting things about that. You remember President Obama said this is going to bring health care costs down for everybody. Average family, $2,500 is going to drop your insurance premiums, your insurance cost. And here Bart Stupak says, no, we knew it was going to increase costs for a lot of people. We knew that going into it. Well, how come nobody told us that? How come no Democrat at the time admitted, yeah, this is going to soak some people right up to the gills? They never said that. All we ever heard, going to lower costs for everybody. And then Bart Stupak wants health care to be a right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, something cannot possibly be a right if it makes a demand on somebody else's wallet. It's not a right if it makes a demand on somebody else's private property. Back in 2.